New season. It is a new season of TAW Live. It's TAW Live rebooted. It is 4 o'clock. It is Friday, and this is the way your weekends will begin from this point now. If you are joining us live, it is a pleasure to be with you looking ahead to the first weekend of the Premier League season. It should be the absolute business. Liverpool going to Fulham. What we're going to be doing is every single week at 4 o'clock on the Anfield Wrap, through any one of our number of channels, you'll be able to join in what we're up to before the weekend starts. This is indeed the start of the weekend. We used to be live on the radio at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock was too late for us. We wanted to get one more hour. One more hour of the weekend out for each and every one of you. So here we are, 4 o'clock every single week. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell work. You get off early. I said so. I'm Neil Atkinson, and I am joined by Siobhan, Biggane, Sian Bennett, and Cam Rimmer to look ahead to the start of this fantastic season in store from a Liverpool point of view. Coming up, we've got some marvellous stuff for you. We're going to be predicting things because that's the voguish thing to do, predicting things over the course of the season. We're going to be also obviously looking ahead to the game against Fulham. There is some fantastic stuff that the LFC Foundation are up to, that John Gibbons and Harry Pryor have been pulling together. We'll be giving you that as well if you listen to this as a podcast. But we will start off with Jurgen's press conference. We'll start off with the fact that Cam, all of a sudden we found ourselves in a bit of a mini injury crisis. It feels as though the least likely injury crisis. We've only played one semi-competitive game, and yet the lads are dropping like flies. The manager in his press conference today was talking about it in a number of different ways. He even insinuated he may have a little look at going back into the transfer market, although if we're honest, that seems unlikely. It's no key players, is what I would say, who are missing particularly for Liverpool, but in different ways, there's a number of little blows in terms of who isn't available for selection for this one coming up against Fulham, and maybe from there. Are you surprised by the mini injury crisis, Cam?
It's one of them, isn't it? Like when they all come back in pre-season, you know, these things could happen, and obviously with all the travelling that they've done, there's always them like little risks if they're going to be fatigued and stuff. But it's I mean, it's not the best, but as you said, it's not players who, if you had to pick your strongest 11, maybe with Kanate as an exception. But I think the thing that first comes to my head is it's not the key players, but it's definitely players who would have benefited from the 5 subs this season. And it's definitely players who maybe, hopefully not tomorrow or early on in the season, there's going to be times where this season some of these lads could have been called upon if it's not going our way and we needed something different. Hopefully it doesn't come to that in the first few stages and we get them all back fit. But it's not the best situation we've been in, but we've certainly had a lot worse with injuries in the past few years.
We have had a lot worse, Sean. For me, there's everyone's in different categories. It's not as easy as the normal sort of injury crisis when you're slap bang in the middle of a season. Where, for me, I think it's a real shame Jota has missed pre-season. I think that would have been great for him to feel as though he could be part of. Keita has been around. He's been around the block. He's got a bit of illness, so that's not quite the same as, for instance, Oxlade-Chamberlain. You felt as though he got into a bit of a rhythm and then gets himself an injury. Kanate, it felt like he grabbed that place, and maybe that now will be lost. Curtis Jones has had a pre-season. You know, he gets on in the Community Shield, but then obviously the injury comes from there. My point here, Sean, is this isn't... There's been times where you can almost just look at Liverpool's injuries with one big line and say that they're all the same. These are all quite different, and they're actually quite different issues for each of these players.
You might think I'm weird for saying this, but I actually think it's a great time to have an injury crisis. And the reason behind that is, you know, the first 5 to 10 games, like the table's all over the place. Everyone's settling in. You can get away with a ropey start. You know, we've seen City do it a few times already. New lads will be settling in anyway. So I think like the biggest blow is that, you know, managing game time, and it's basically a whole bench that we've got out. But, you know, we've not got any cup games to contend with yet. We've not got any of our top 4 rivals this month. So I'd rather have it now than April when we're battling on all fronts.
It's a funny one, Siobhan, where, you know, City have got Laporte out. That's their only one, but he is quite significant for them at the heart of that defence. They've also got a smaller squad than us in general this season. Today we find out that, for instance, Ricardo Pereira's done his Achilles playing for Leicester. There's been injuries, I think, up and down in a number of different places. If you look elsewhere, the only issue for us, or the issue that's sort of bigger for us, is that, you know, for someone like Curtis Jones, for instance, it's a really big 4 weeks that I don't want him to miss. If he's out from 2 till 4, there's a really big sort of 4 weeks where there might be an opportunity for him to get a couple of starts. There's obviously the 5 subs, as Cam said. That's where it feels like a bit of a blow for me. It's almost individual stories rather than me being concerned about Liverpool's season.
Yeah, because as Sean's talking about that, you know, bit at the start of the season where everyone's just feeling each other out, that's where you would feel each other out. That sounds dodgy. Feel the squad out in terms of who works for who. Like practicing what you've kind of picked up in pre-season. I found the Curtis Jones injury explanation. I was baffled by it, and I don't know if anyone's got any kind of can enlighten me a little bit further. Like it was obviously to do with his age, but he's in a boot, but he doesn't feel pain because he's young, but it could make something worse. Like I didn't quite understand what the prognosis was or what that looks like, and I don't know whether it's a case of that no one knows what the prognosis is or what it looks like, but it is a shame. And obviously, you'd really want, as Cam and Sean have both touched on, the 5 subs is a perfect time to be using that full bench and to be given those players who, all right, might not be the first 11 that you pick, but are certainly going to be important. As we know this season, the composition of this season is absolutely balmy, isn't it? So you'd want people to be showing themselves as totally ready, nice and early, and that's not going to happen. But I can't help but think that, and I don't know whether we've just been scarred from the season before last, but we've got away with one a bit last season in terms of injuries. We didn't really have any crisis points, so I don't know whether this is just the natural cycle of them, and the fact that it's the start of the season and it's a random rag bag of players. It's not the whole back line like we've had before. It just feels a little bit like we don't quite know how to handle it, but don't quite know how to take it. But I think we'll be okay.
The being okay part, Siobhan, I'll come back to you on it, is for me the main thing here. For now, the worry is obviously it only takes another 1 or 2 more and it does sort of tip you over the edge. But for instance, the flip side of that is Keita is just ill, so he'll be returning to the fold pretty quickly. But you don't want to get tipped over the edge. But for me, I think the main thing is that there's a lot of options for this game against Fulham. I actually think it's quite difficult to pick a team. I hope he picks Elliott from the start. I think he should be seriously considering picking Elliott from the start. I wouldn't be averse to him starting Gomez. There's a couple of others in there as well. Shimikas doesn't look like it's particularly a long-term thing, as and when he sort of gets himself back around. It seems to me just a little bit like this is just some wear and tear that you maybe get when people aren't quite back in rhythm. The flip side is that what you don't want is there to be now more wear and tear for this one against Fulham, because there is then, there are games coming up against Palace, and then the season does really kick off after that game against Man United.
I think the season kicks off against Palace. I think that regardless of whether I'm not discounting tomorrow, of course, but they look a bit of a rag bag themselves. So I think that there's they've got a couple of, they haven't got as many out as us, but they've got a couple of injuries themselves, haven't they? So I don't think that it's a concern for this week, but I actually do think that the Palace game, it's always a physical game. It's always you need to be strong physically for it, and you'd want your strength and depth back for that. But I know I take your point about you don't want there to be wear and tear down the road when those lads who are out now are coming back and need a little bit of feeling out time to come back in advance of that season really starting in earnest. But I think they're such professionals and there'll be such competition for those places that I think that they'll do everything in their power to do it. And everyone who's out now has got all that in mind and in their view.
There's something if you go right the way down the league, Cam, for instance, currently as it stands, Wolves are missing 5, West Ham are missing 4, Spurs are missing 4. West Ham's new sign and the new centre-half they've done, he's out at the moment as well. City are only missing 1, but it is Laporte. Leicester are now missing 7. Harvey Barnes has picked up a little knock as well for Fana, may not make the first game of the season. Arsenal missing 4, Smith Rowe, Vieira, Tierney and Tomiyasu look as though they're all out. I just think there's something in what's happening with these footballers and what they're being prepared for. They're being prepared for such a physical challenge over the course of a season that the pre-season itself had to be compressed as well a little bit because of the way in which it's all going on timelines. And I just sort of wonder whether or not, the manager in his press conference, he talks about player welfare, he talks about the World Cup, he talks about player welfare all the time, and he does it in today's press conference as well. He's really emphatic on it, even links it to climate change with reference to the World Cup in terms of the fact that it's not something people talk about in brief snatches, but no one actually puts a plan together, was his argument. And I just sort of wonder if this, all the way through this season, there'll be stings in the tail at certain points for certain teams, certain players, that they're basically just having to work so hard to hang in there.
Yeah, but I think, like you're saying about looking forward to the World Cup, but I've been convinced that so even going far back as when the footy came back after lockdown, it's just literally, there's hardly been any breaks whatsoever. And now this has been probably the biggest pre-season or the biggest break that they've had since lockdown, and it's all just come to the fore now, and it really is starting to hit the players. But then also, like you said, with the World Cup and stuff coming, Klopp might be saying to them, look, like because obviously he'll have the league, and he'll have our like periods in like 6 or 7 games. He'll be saying, look, these first couple of weeks from now to Palestine United, there's big breaks, but then from September to the World Cup, it's going to be relentless. So if you are feeling even 80%, just tell me now, and it can be a little break. So some of these players, I think, as well, going back to the point of it's not like any of the strongest starting 11, he might be saying to them, look, you're going to be playing here and there, but if you're not feeling it just yet, like, let me know.
They're talking about, for instance, proper sessions today. He's talking about the way in which players are also sort of going to push themselves into one another. You know, he's also talking about the World Cup. Third place, you're really quite busy. He says he's not angry about it when it came in, but he talks about it. He gets angry now. He goes through a number of his players in the press conference today, Sean. You know, he goes through Carvalho, he goes through Jota with the new contract. You know, he goes through the idea that nothing's changed at the moment. For Diogo, the return was slightly too early. In a few weeks, he'll be back, but no pre-season's not cool. Costas be ready to train next week. But all of this is, you know, it's interesting he is in his press conference prepared to frame this in the context of talking about the World Cup. He does mention it in there, and he does mention the idea of player welfare, and he does mention everyone getting around the table to improve this.
I love it when he calls out the room and everyone's just shuffling like, what do we say next? Yeah, I'm surprised it got as much airtime as it did with it being so far ahead. And I guess, you know, you'll have people saying, oh, he's, you know, getting his excuses in now and stuff. But I don't really know the solution. I've got no idea who works out all these fixtures, because it's like, well, when can you play it? I really don't know. And I wonder how much of a voice the club has in it, because he's always pointing the finger at press and journalists, but surely the people who sign off all these things through the club is where he can go. But it's going to be tough. But then, you know, if we're looking at the squad now, and we've got an injury crisis at the start of the season, I'm like really okay with it, because if you look at the forward line, we've got, what is it, who've we got out? Jota and...
It's only Jota. So in the forward line, it's only Jota.
So Jota, we're fine. We've got Nunes or a Bobby on the bench. We've got Carvalho. We've got Elliott in if we need it. Midfield does feel a little bit light, but you've still got Milner, Elliott and Carvalho again in that position. Backline, I'm not worried about, because we've got the most overqualified fourth choice centre-back in the world in Joe Gomez. And if anything, I actually think that's presented him an opportunity. So if you're looking at this stage in the season and we're like injury struck, yes, not all of the first teamers, but we're, you know, this. I think we kind of said it last year that the squad's the strongest it's ever been, but we're still in that position this season. So I think that's kind of what the squad's there for. Everyone's kind of in the same position. I think we'll be fine around the World Cup.
It feels as though they're always going to be since that injury crisis, the one that killed the season, Siobhan. You feel as though they're going to be risk averse, and they're also going to be risk averse in the market. So, for instance, I don't think that it's going to impact Liverpool's transfer dealings in terms of ins. I think if there's a player they really want comes available, they may still move for him. But ultimately, that looks unlikely. But it does feel as though Nat Phillips or Sepp Vandenberg may well have a couple of weeks here where they're not necessarily going to be getting any move, because Liverpool will err on the side of protecting Liverpool. They'll err on the side of caution. That appears to be the club's outlook now.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a bit of a no-win situation, isn't it, for the player and for the club, because we hope that Nat Phillips doesn't get a lot of playing time if he sticks around, because we hope that Konaté's back really quickly. So call it a month, with, in my eyes, worst case scenario. No, it could be much worse. But then he's, you know, kind of arsing around for the rest of the season, or the half the season at least, and it doesn't really, you know, it's an opportunity taken away from him, and who knows what the league will look like, what he will look like, what Liverpool will look like in January when his opportunity comes again, and it'll feel like an opportunity wasted for him. But the club they cannot end up in a similar situation than they've ended up in before. So I understand both sides, and I just feel really sorry for both sides. You know, it's as I said before, it's like a proper no-win situation. I just hope that either, if we do have to hold on to someone, which is looking likely, there's a bit of a plan there, so that it's not just you're like the longest reserve possible. But I also, you know, hope that something changes in the next couple of weeks that means it might not be necessary, but who knows.
Okay, more from the manager's press conference to come, looking ahead to Fulham. Before then, if you listen to this as a podcast, it is TAW Live, but we did record when we were in Bangkok, the LFC Foundation Right to Play event, and there, John Gibbon spoke to a combination of Billy Hogan, Matt Parrish, Sammy Hippier, Forbes Duff, and Julia from Right to Play. All of that is coming now. After that, you've got us doing our predictions. They're not necessarily the same ones that everyone else has been asked to predict all the way through, and then we will be back to also go back to that press conference and look ahead to Fulham. But it is time now for the Anfield Wrap with the LFC Foundation at the Right to Play event, telling the story of what it is that is happening around the club in Bangkok. But we are back here and we're going to predict things. We're going to go quickly as well. You'd best be ready, the three of you. You got some notice.
I'm not ready.
Well, you got notice. You got more notice than people normally get on this show, Siobhan. So I'm just going to go.
But I was more focused on getting a drink, as you know.
Well, I think you've done the right thing getting the drink, to be honest with you. It can power you through. All I need is your most concise answer all the way through. There's 10 things I've asked you to predict all the way through here. I just want you to come with me. We'll go in the order of Cam, Sian and Siobhan on each of them. First up, Cam, who's going to finish 14th?
Fulham.
Sian?
I was thinking about 14th and what it kind of says about your season. 11th to 13th, you've got the top 10 in sight, so you're like a bit of improvement. 16th and 17th, you've kind of fought the relegation battle. 14th is just a pure badge of mediocrity, so I'm going to give it 7. So I'm going to give it 7.
Marvellous, excellent stuff. Siobhan, 14th.
Mediocrity is generous. Southampton.
Okay. Cam, which referee will be the worst one?
All of them.
Okay, wow. Okay, Sian.
Was Paul Tierney the ref for the Rodri handball?
Yes.
I'm going to go with him.
Okay, Siobhan.
I was going to say Paul Tierney too, but there is no advance on everyone.
Okay, excellent stuff. Third prediction. How many match weeks will Manchester United spend in 6th? Cam?
15.
15 in 6th. Excellent stuff. Sian?
Can't decide if I'd rather them be in 6 for most of it and then they drop out, or they're out of it for most of it and then 6 becomes a really big success for them. I think the latter, so I'm going to say they actually spend a little bit of time there, maybe like 10 games, and it's a big win for them to get there. Okay,
Siobhan?
19, the rest below.
The rest below. Excellent stuff indeed. That's off the back of the wonderful tweet. Manchester United are back in 6th, I think, from Robbie. Top scoring Scott, Cam?
Oh God, you've got me with that one.
Pick one of our two.
Robbo, yeah, go ahead. Robbo.
Andrew Robertson will be the top scoring Scott. He's going to outscore Che Adams. Good to see. Top scoring Scott is Andy Robertson. Marvellous. Sian?
This is too niche. I'm going to go for John McGinn. It's the only one I can think of.
John McGinn, excellent shout for the top scoring Scott. Siobhan Biggane, who was the top scoring Scott?
Billy Gilmore.
Billy Gilmore's going to bang them in. Excellent stuff indeed. Cam, will Harvey Elliott go to the World Cup?
No. Speaking about this yesterday, I just think Southgate's too loyal with his certain crop of players. But I think if Elliott, he'd have to have an unbelievable couple of months, but not just yet.
Okay, excellent stuff. Sian, will Harvey Elliott go to the World Cup?
No, I don't think so. It might be dependent on how many injuries Liverpool get and how much of a run of games he gets. So maybe if he's there, he means that we've had loads of injuries. So kind of hope it doesn't.
Okay, Siobhan?
No, Southgate's not clever enough.
Okay, then. Will the Touche fuck it all off? Cam?
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. I think he'll be quite early.
So do I.
Yeah.
I'm talking
October, November, bombing night, something around then.
It's not bombing night, excellent stuff. The Touche, he could go either way when it comes to Halloween. He's playing Bob Apple. He's having a good think about it. And then eventually he's buying the fireworks and about the 3rd decides to fuck it all off. Sian, will the Touche fuck it all off?
This one went completely over my head.
Why?
What's the Touche?
Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah! Have you never heard of
I've completely missed that one.
It's okay. Will the Touche fuck it all off?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. You'll fume about 8 weeks in.
Okay, Siobhan?
Yeah, his head was gone last season, wasn't it?
It was indeed. Cam, who wins the Carabao Cup?
Us again. I think Klopp's had a taste. He's had a taste for these heavy Wembley days out, and I just think, we'll go for it again.
Excellent, Sian.
Spurs, because Conte's just got the winning trophies.
Excellent, Siobhan.
Us, so that the fringe players get their opportunity again.
Okay, Cam, will you enjoy the World Cup more or less than usual?
Yeah, I like it. It'd be something different. Just see what it's like, but then go back to the summer ones after.
Okay, Sian?
Oh, if it's not the girls playing, I don't want to know.
Excellent
number
stuff.
one now.
Excellent stuff, Siobhan.
If the Republic of Ireland don't qualify, which they never do, I'm never that.
Well, they haven't. Well, they haven't.
No.
They haven't. So there we are
Exactly.
then. Okay. All right. Next one is Cam. What month will Gary Lim's best mate Gary Neville say? Well, sorry. What month will Peter Lim's best mate Gary Neville say? First say Manchester United Football Club in that tone. You know the tone. So what month will Peter Lim's best mate Gary Neville first say Manchester United Football Club in that tone on the telly? You know the tone. What month will it happen, Cam?
This month, when it's all gone horribly wrong for him, and his head just goes on Monday Night Football after we beat them.
There we are. Okay, excellent. Got it out the way early. Sean.
Can I just say that gives me the ick so much, the way they say that. It's like such a specific reference, but I know exactly what you mean.
Manchester United Football Club.
Manchester United Football Club. Yeah.
It's already
Manchester United Football Club.
It's already happened. They're losing their heads over Ronaldo. He's already all over it, saying this club's too big to be accommodating for him. So yeah, it's happened. We're in it.
So we're in it now. It's going to happen. He's going to do it week one. Manchester United Football Club do not need the distraction of someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, etc., etc. We know the tone. Siobhan, agree?
Agreed. This month, but to do with transfers.
To do with transfers.
Yeah.
Okay, indeed. There will get the big one will be given then. Last prediction for this little round before we take another break. Where will Arsenal finish? Cam?
5th and win the Europa League.
Oh, lovely. What a
I think
season.
he'll have a good season, mate. I think,
What
honestly.
What a delight. Okay, excellent, Sean.
I had them down top 4, but I've been watching All or Nothing, and I'm not really sold on Arteta's motivational speeches, and I can't shake the feeling that he's a bit of a wannabe Pep. I think it's the mannerisms, just everything about him seems a little bit copy and paste. So I'm going to demote them to 5th because of that.
Okay, he's wonderfully slim though. You know what I mean? At all times, he was very svelte. You know, as a man of his age, you know, we're about the same age, me and Mikel, and Christ, I'm not that svelte. Siobhan?
Oh wow, 4th.
4th?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent stuff indeed. That's been your predictions, honestly, well better than anyone else's, although the Anfield Wrap did do their own as well behind the paywall. If you want ones that ask more predictable questions on the predictions, they are available. They're doing them everywhere. The BBC have done some mad ones where everyone's got Manchester City first because these people do not love life in any sense of the word. Everyone going for the predictable, everyone going for the obvious. It is the Anfield Wrap. It is TAW Live. It is 22 minutes in. We will take ourselves another little break now if you listen to it as a podcast. If you're not, though, if you're enjoying it as a special little freebie for you all the way through on video every week, 4 p.m, the start of your weekend, the weekend boost that you want to look ahead to a fantastic run of games over the course of the season. Siobhan Biggane, Liverpool's charge towards their 20th league title starts at Fulham on Saturday morning, 12:30. I'm unbelievably excited. I cannot wait for this one. I fancy us for this title. I really, really do. I think we've just got to start the season the way we finished the last one, and I think we can burn City off. What do you think?
Agreed. I think that you don't like to be too much into a community shield, but we were shit hot, and it's one of those. I know it's like every opposition fan's needle dream to say it, but last season was just a game too short for us, wasn't it? And a few more, and I think we would have done it. We continued to be on the up, and City did not. I think that there's a nervousness around. There was a nervousness around what it would be like post Sadio. You know, that is that's a difficult thing to know that he's not going to be there. And I think I'm never going to get used to it. It'll take a really long time. But I think that last season, I think that the motivation people will take from that, and I think that, as you touched on before, Neil, City's squad, I don't think is what everyone thinks it is. I think that they are only a couple, like we've just been saying about ourselves, they're a couple of injuries away from a proper crisis. You know, I know Laporte being out is dead significant for them because they claim that year we absolutely pissed them to the league, that it was because Laporte was injured. Well, try this one on for size, we're doing it again.
It feels to me, Sean, like it obviously starts day one, and this is the point for the generalised excitement. This is the running, and it's mad in that it is broken up by the World Cup, but it is the running. That's where we found ourselves at the end of last season. It does remind me of 2019, 2020 in that regard. It all starts now, and it all starts, you know, it's a massive game against Fulham. We've got to get 3 points, but that's because we think we can win this league. For me, that's the beginning, middle, and end of the matter. We kick off, and I think we can win this league.
I think we can. I think, I guess my worry is just replacing the goals from the departures. But I think if you look at Diaz and Nunes getting close to 20 goals each, I think we'll be on the right track. But yeah, the first game is where it starts. I think I really do take the first 5-8 with a pinch of salt. And I know I've got carried in the way in the past when City have started off ropey, and we all know they can pull it back. But just looking at our record under Klopp in terms of first games, there's only one that we drew, that mad one against Watford in 17-18, but we've never lost one. But I guess the caveat is that most of them have been at home, and the 2 games that we played away on the first game of the season, we've conceded 6-2. One of them being the 4-3 away to Arsenal, and then the other one being 3-3 to Watford. So maybe there's more goals in it than we think. Obviously, they're newly promoted. They scored a lot of goals last season, but I don't think they've replaced the goals that they've lost through Carvalho, and also Wilson's out, isn't he? So yeah, I'm sure we'll win. But I just think our first games away under Klopp, we're a bit mad, but to be fair, they were his first 2 full seasons in, so I'm sure we'll be a lot more shored up.
They seem to me, you don't want to read too much into the Community Shield, as Siobhan says, Cam, but they seem to me last week, a lot of what they were doing in terms of the movement, in terms of the instinctive running, in terms of the subs, in terms of what we've seen from a couple of them over pre-season. But in that game, City were at breaking points. I think City defend really well first half against Liverpool, but City were at breaking point. They could really do something to Fulham, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was quite a high-scoring game, as Sian says, that Fulham will want to put a bit of a show on their own turf. But I think Liverpool are going to be pretty determined to start the season looking like potential champions, Cam.
Yeah, it's the early kick-off and stuff. City aren't playing till the Sunday. We've just got to come out there and just, no stories, no headlines or anything, just go in, get the win, and just get out. Because, with the 5 subs and stuff, if you get the game won early, you can start to use that to your advantage. But then also, we're not playing till the following Monday night. So it's just about getting the results in now early doors, no messing about. You try and get 5 out of 5, 6 out of 6 wins or something, and then just going from there. But going back to that Community Shield, they did look really sharp. And I think from the first time they played with Núñez, we seem to have adapted a lot more to him, which is important, because it's going to be a case of him and Haaland, who can hit the ground running. Because whereas I don't think City are still getting used to playing with Haaland, and that could cost them. It could cost us the league, could cost them the league as well, couldn't it? It's just all a case of who slips first, and then you're trying to get ground on them, because that's where it's been the last few seasons now.
On that, it's interesting the way in which he's talked today in his press conference, Cam. When he has the opportunity, he talks about Darwin and Firmino. He says the different players they get on, they're both from South America, offensive players, but different positions. Bobby's an exceptional player, his own way of playing football. Darwin is ready, but that doesn't mean he has to start. He needs to get used to a lot of things, but he's already a real help. It was a proper pre-season training session for him. He said he was nervous early on. That's normal. He settled quickly. He feels at home. There's a thing we're doing, I think, Cam, when we're talking about 11s, and we're acting as though it's Darwin or Firmino. I think we've seen at times the Firmino, he's almost happy to turn that, when it was Salah and Mane and Firmino, turn it into a little bit of a diamond, where actually Salah and Mane could be really quite narrow, and Firmino could be almost like the tip of the midfield more than necessarily like he's playing up front. I don't think it's as straightforward as it's Darwin or Firmino. I'm not saying necessarily just for this one, but over the course of the season, I think it's very easy to imagine both getting on the pitch at the same time sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Firmino, he's not getting any younger, so him dropping deep probably would make sense at times. I think we'll definitely will see it at times this season. In what type of game, you don't know yet. It depends on the circumstances and stuff, but I haven't really thought of it like that. But I think with tomorrow, as you said, with Núñez still bedding in, I think tomorrow it will be one or the other. But as you said, further down the line in the season, I could see them both being on the pitch at the same time.
Keith Parry in the chat on YouTube, Siobhan points out that we've lost 2 in the last 48 league games. Our defensive unit has been superb. You can't see it changing anytime soon. For me, Liverpool with Virgil van Dijk versus Liverpool without Virgil van Dijk is absolutely massive. He's, for me, the most important footballer in the country. And when I think about us winning the league, when I think about us winning at Fulham, when I think about us winning against Crystal Palace, I just think, is Virgil van Dijk going to be present and correct? And Virgil's start last season, in the end, we didn't think it at the time, but a little bit slow. He was getting himself sorted out. For me, this could be the best season of Virgil's career, the one that's coming up now, and that should be terrifying for everyone in the league.
Absolutely. I think that for a club challenging for the league, it's hard to pin it on one player, but I genuinely think you can pin it on one player with us. If he's in, I think we're as close as possible, if not winning it. If not, it's hard to say, because it's so much of what he does. It's not, obviously he plays a role on the field, but he makes everyone around him better. He frightens oppositions. He carries the confidence of an entire club and an entire fan base on his shoulders with ease. And I think that he was absolutely imperious from January onwards, I'd say. There was not a foot wrong. Even before that, very few foots wrong. You'd forgive other players easily for whatever mistake he made. And I think the measure of him, to me, is how much others delight in any slight error he makes. Like, remember the time, who was it? What player ran past him and he made a big deal about it?
It was the Arsenal one. It was the Arsenal game,
He ran past, he's the first player to run past him. What was that? Why did he do that? I don't understand. And I think that, it speaks for itself. People are absolutely terrified of him, and rightfully so. And I'm so excited to see the big absolute unit of a man again in the flesh a week on Monday.
It's a couple of selection questions, Sian, looking into this one. You'd expect it will be Matip who starts next to Van Dijk. He probably won't go with Gomez, given the fact that Konate is out for a period, but you never know with this manager. I do wonder whether O'Reilly might look at doing someone else in the middle of the park rather than Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago. I think two of them definitely start. And then there is sort of whether or not he will do Darwin up front. Are you expecting him just to go with the team that started the Charity Shield, or do you think he might have a surprise for Fulham?
No, I think same as City. I think the intensity was mind blowing watching that game. I had a ball watching it. I don't know if it's just because I hadn't really watched footy for a while all summer, but that's the best I've ever seen us play. And we know kind of City were a bit undercooked. But another takeaway that I had was I wasn't asked about Mane once in that game, and I think that's helped in the healing process. Did not think we're missing Mane here, but I also didn't think I was screaming for Nunes to come on. Was completely happy with Salah, Firmino, and Firmino and Diaz. So with that being said, I'd be happy for Nunes to start on the bench and kind of go the same as City. But I also think, and Cam touched on it before, about with the injuries that we've now got, basically wiping out a whole bench, managing game time is just going to be that little bit more important. So I think he'll go full throttle for the first 60 or 70, get it won. What we don't want to do is having to need every single key player on the pitch at 89, 90 plus.
Cam, do you think that's the case? Do you think it will be one where he'll get the same side as the one that won the Community Shield and then be prepared to change it from 55 onwards, or do you think he might do a one or two in advance?
No, I think he'll just play it safe and go with the same team as last week, and then hopefully where you can bring a few of them off, like on 50-60, hopefully. But it doesn't always pan out like that, does it? But we've got that should have enough firepower, I think, tomorrow if we just go with that team from last week.
Okay. Cam, one, are we going to beat Fulham? Two, are we going to win the league?
Yes and yes. But I, like you were saying, when you're saying about the whole feeling like 1920, I've got that exact same feeling myself, where I think we'll just absolutely steamroll City. I've just got this feeling about it. So, yeah.
Excellent stuff. Sian?
Yes, definitely will be Fulham. And in terms of winning the league, yes, because I think there's just a lot of transition happening at the minute, and I know Liverpool included, but I'm still not sold on City's squad as a whole, and I think they've got a bit of fine tuning to do. So even if it's a difference of it, if that takes them 3 games to figure it out, then that's our advantage straight there.
Okay, Siobhan.
Yes, and I've gone really quickly from I'm not ready for football to be back to I cannot wait. Yes, we won the league.
Excellent stuff indeed. Brilliant stuff indeed from Cam, from Sian and from Siobhan. The season is lining itself up, another new one, another exciting one. Simultaneously, we do need to acknowledge, we do need to make clear that other things that persist do not change year on year. Martin Tyler, to quote Ian Burns' disgraceful comment this morning that Hillsborough and other hooligan-related incidents that he said on BBC Radio 4 led to a full apology from Martin Tyler. But as Ian Burns himself said, it shows how important the Real Truth Legacy project is around the whole of Hillsborough. It is worth pointing out that he wasn't challenged on it, Martin Tyler, by BBC Radio 4 Today programme. Similarly, Adrian Childs didn't challenge Jonathan Goldberg either. The Real Truth Legacy project is very, very, very important indeed around Hillsborough. This stuff is too easily forgotten. It's too easily battered away by the BBC. Things do need to change around that. This has been your TAW Live. It's hopefully been a very, very good one. 4 p.m. every single week, covering every single base that you need, and you'll even get presenters who pay attention. Thank you very much to Sian. Thank you very much to Siobhan. Thank you very much to Cam. Back more soon. Everything you need on the Anfield Wrap. Download the app. It is back. It is exciting. Siobhan is absolutely right. I can't wait to watch these Reds.